For 500 years, this was the goal of art, to hold up a perfect mirror to reality. From the subtle smile of the Mona Lisa to the divine perfection of Raphael, the mission was to create a flawless, single-view illusion of the world. Then, in 1907, one man took that mirror and smashed it into 1,000,000 pieces. This is the story of how Pablo Picasso shattered reality, and in doing so, taught the world to see in a new way. To understand the man who broke the rules, you must first understand that he had already mastered them. Pablo Picasso was a child prodigy of almost frightening talent. His father, an art teacher, recognized his son's genius and reportedly gave up painting himself, claiming his 13-year-old son had surpassed him. By his late teens, Picasso was producing stunningly realistic, academically perfect paintings that rivaled the old masters. He famously said, "It took me 4 years to paint like Raphael, but a lifetime to paint like a child." He had to prove he was a master of reality before he could tear it apart. His early work was not just technically brilliant, it was emotionally profound. The suicide of his close friend, Carlos Casagemas, plunged him into a deep depression and triggered his famous blue period. For several years, he painted the world almost exclusively in shades of blue and green, depicting the poor, the blind, and the trodden down with a haunting, melancholic beauty. It was the first time he demonstrated his true code, the ability to translate raw, personal tragedy into a universal artistic language. His revolution began in Paris, in the vibrant, chaotic, and competitive art scene of Montmartre. It was there he found his co-conspirator, the French painter Georges Braque. And it was there he found his greatest rival, Henri Matisse. At the time, Matisse was the king of the Parisian avant-garde, leading the Fauvist movement with his explosively bold and unnatural use of color. Picasso saw Matisse as the man to beat. This intense rivalry fueled his ambition, pushing him to create something even more radical, something that would shatter not just color, but form itself. The revolution of Cubism was, in part, an answer to the revolution of Matisse. And it was there that he discovered a key that would unlock a new universe, the raw, powerful art of Africa and ancient Iberia. In the sharp angles and abstracted forms of African masks, he saw a freedom from the constraints of European naturalism. He saw a way to paint not just the surface of a thing, but its spirit, its raw power. This was the weapon he needed. In 1907, he unleashed it upon the world in a single, brutal painting, Les Demoiselles d'Avignon. It was a violent, jagged depiction of 5 prostitutes, their bodies fractured, their faces like jagged masks. The art world was horrified. It wasn't just ugly, it was a declaration of war on beauty itself. This was the birth of his code, Cubism. And the code was simple but revolutionary. For centuries, artists had painted an object from a single, fixed viewpoint. Picasso decided this was a lie. Our eyes are never still, our minds perceive an object from multiple angles at once. Cubism was his attempt to paint in the 4th dimension. He would show a face from the front and the side simultaneously. He would deconstruct an object into its geometric forms and then reassemble them on the canvas, showing you the front, back, and sides all at once. He wasn't painting what he saw, he was painting what he knew. He had shattered the single-point perspective that had dominated art for 500 years. The style evolved rapidly. The first phase, analytical cubism, was an intense, almost scientific exploration of form, using a muted palette of browns and grays to deconstruct objects into complex, fragmented geometric shapes. Later, the style shifted into synthetic cubism, where he began to reintroduce color and, in a revolutionary move, started incorporating real-world materials like newspaper clippings and wallpaper directly onto the canvas. This invention of collage further shattered the boundary between painting and the real world. At first, the world reacted with shock and derision, but Cubism evolved, and its influence was undeniable. It became the most important art movement of the 20th century. Picasso's new language was fully realized in 1937 with his monumental masterpiece, Guernica. A visceral, chaotic mural painted in stark black, white, and gray, it depicted the horrific bombing of a Basque town during the Spanish Civil War. The fragmented, nightmarish style of Cubism was the only visual language capable of capturing the true horror and chaos of modern mechanized warfare. A realistic painting would have been a lie. Guernica was the truth. This painting cemented Picasso's status not just as an artist, but as a global political conscience. During World War II, he remained in Nazi-occupied Paris. His work was labeled degenerate art by the Nazis, but he refused to flee. He became a quiet symbol of defiance. In a famous story, a German officer who had raided his apartment pointed to a photograph of Guernica and asked, "Did you do that?" Picasso famously replied, "No, you did." It cemented Picasso's status not just as an artist, but as a global conscience, the first true art superstar. In his later life, Picasso was a force of nature, a creative minotaur in his own labyrinth. He became immensely wealthy and famous, but his obsessive drive to create never ceased. His personal life was tumultuous and controversial, a whirlwind of wives and mistresses who were both his muses and his victims. The sheer volume of his output was staggering. Over his long life, he produced an estimated 50,000 works of art. This includes nearly 2,000 paintings, but also tens of thousands of drawings, prints, sculptures, and ceramics. He was not an artist who waited for inspiration. He was an artist who worked relentlessly, every single day, constantly experimenting and pushing his own boundaries. His life was a testament to his belief that the meaning of life was to find your gift, and the purpose of life was to give it away. But through it all, he never stopped working, never stopped reinventing himself. His ultimate code was not just Cubism, it was the principle of permanent revolution. He would master a style, and then, just as the world began to understand it, he would destroy it and move on to something new. He didn't just shatter reality once, he made a career out of it. From his blue period to Cubism to Surrealism and beyond, he was in a constant state of creation and destruction, always breaking his own rules. Pablo Picasso taught the world that there is no single, correct way to see. He proved that the role of the true genius is not to perfect the old rules, but to create new ones for everyone else to follow. He gave us a fractured, multifaceted, and more honest vision of reality, and the world of art was never the same. And that is the architecture of the reality of Pablo Picasso. Remember, history is more than a story, it's a code, and there is always another layer to decrypt. Subscribe and continue the investigation with us.